Hello everyone, this is Tom Morley with video number 9 in the Space Blasters 84 tutorial series. In this video we will be incorporating the laser into the spaceship scene. So let's get started. Let's go into the projects folder and Space Blasters 84, and we need another folder called laser. So let's create a new folder called laser. In that laser folder, let's create an image folder. Now we need to go get the image that we want to use, so let's back up and let's go into the source folder and go into the laser folder and unzip this package. Now let's go into the folder and into the PNG folder, and I think there's a lasers folder, yep, right there. And we are going to use the laser green 10 PNG. So laser green 10 PNG right there. So let's just copy that. Let's back up out of the source folder. Get out of the source folder here. There we go. Go into our laser folder and our image folder and we'll paste it in there. Okay, so we're ready to go. So let's back up and fire up the Godot engine. Now let's open our Space Blasters 84 project, and it opens up to a new scene. So let's create a new node. You should know all about this by now. Create a root node and we'll just call it laser root. Now we're going to have the same behavior in the laser as we do in the ship itself, so we need to create a physics body, add a sprite, and a collision area. So select the laser root, create a new node, and we'll go down to kinematic body down in the blue area. We'll select it, double click on it. Now with the kinematic body selected, we need to add a sprite, so we'll add the sprite. Again, select the kinematic body, and we need to add a collision shape 2D so we can define the collision area as well. Okay, I'm gonna kind of move things around so that we can see when I add the actual PNG. So select the sprite, let's add the texture here, hit the down arrow, click load, and we'll go to the laser folder in the image, and there's our laser PNG, and we'll add it, and you see it added it at the 00 coordinates, just like we expected. Now click on the collision shape 2D node and we will define the collision area for the laser. So with the collision shape selected, let's click down the down arrow on the shape section here, and we are going to use a rectangle shape 2D, and you'll see that it puts it puts it right there. So we need to adjust the collision area, and we do that by hitting this right arrow here, and we change it in the rectangle shape 2D area here. We'll click on that, and it looks like we need to go down just a little bit in the X. Let's try 8 and see how that goes. Nope, let's try 7. 7 looks pretty good, and let's try 27 here. And that looks pretty good to me. So it looks like we have 7 in the X direction and 27 in the Y direction. So we've defined the sprite, and we are ready to start creating some behavior in the laser scene itself. So we will add a script. So select the laser root and click create new script. We will put it in the laser folder, and of course we're going to call it laser.gd. And we'll click create. And we only need the laser to be aware of a couple of things, and it has to be aware of its speed when it's created, and it also has to be aware of when it goes off the screen. But basically we only need one variable that's going to represent the speed of the laser itself. So let's create the variable speed. And I've done some testing, and I found that I want about a 1920 pixel speed per second. So our variable speed will be negative 1920, and it's a negative 1920 because we want it to go in the y direction from the bottom to the top. Okay, so in our function ready, we can get rid of this stuff here, and we're going to use the fixed process because we want to be able to be aware of the collisions when they happen. So we want to set the fixed process to true, so we want to use it, right? Okay, now we need to write that fixed process function. Now, the only thing we really need is when a laser is created in the fixed process, we just need to move it a certain speed once it's been created. So let's get node here, and we're always going to be moving the kinematic body 2D of the node group here. So let's get the node kinematic 2D body, and let's say move, right? We want to basically suggest that it moves in a certain direction. It expects XY coordinates, so we're going to use a vector 2. We don't want to move it at all in the X direction, side to side. We just want to move it from the bottom to the top. So X is 0, and Y is going to be our speed variable that we defined up top there, and we need to multiply that by the delta, right, so that we get a smooth 1920 pixels per second. Okay, so now the next thing we want to check for is to see if the laser goes off the top of the screen. So we need to write some code in here to check that. So if get node, again we're going to be checking the kinematic body 2D, and there's a way to get a global position for the kinematic body 2D, and that's just get global position. And we're concerned with the y direction, so we'll say dot y, and if that's less than 0, we want to basically kill or delete the laser. So we need to get the laser again, right? We'll get node, but this time we don't want the kinematic body because we want to basically delete this whole tree. So we want to use the dot to represent the laser root itself. So let's put in dot, and we're going to use the QFree function, and basically that's going to delete this whole tree here. Okay, so now if I run this, I'm not going to see very much happen because when we created the laser. It's all the way at the top of the screen already. So let's put some temporary code in here just so we see something actually happen. So in the function ready, let's move that kinematic body down to the near the bottom of the game screen. So let's get the node again. Kinematic body, right? And we're going to use what function? Move? No. Remember, move to. If we want to specifically say an XY position on the screen, we're going to use move to for kinematic body 2Ds. So move to. And vector 2. And we'll put it at half the width of the screen, which is 540, and we'll put it where the menu, we parked the ship for the menu, which was 1450, I believe, in the y-axis. So now if I need to close that out. There you go. So now if I play this, first we have to save it. So scene, save scene, and make sure we're in the laser folder, and we're going to call it laser scene. Now if I play this, I should see the laser at the position that we wrote in the code here, and it should go up until it goes almost off the screen. It'll hit 0 and then it'll delete the laser. So let's click play and see what happens. And that's exactly what happened, is it went up to the top of the screen and it deleted itself. But just so we can see it a little bit more, let's comment this out with a hashtag. And let's say if you reach 0, well, reset yourself to the parked area. So we'll get the node kinematic body 2D, and we're going to move it to vector 2, 540 by 1450. There you go. So now if I play it, we should see the bullet just it'll spawn, go up to the top, it'll hit the 0 coordinates, and then it'll be set back to 540 by 1450. So you see the bullet just continue on and on and on and on. So really we're done with the laser scene. The rest of the video is going to be how to incorporate this bullet into the ship so that when we press the space button, we'll actually be able to fire the laser at the ship. So let's put in that portion as well. Because we're in the laser root, I think I'm going to create a function here that just makes it a little easier to call set position on the kinematic body 2D. So I'm going to create my own function here that's going to be set position, set pos. And I'll just call this the pos for the position. And I'm going to get the kinematic node, kinematic body 2D node. And I'm going to set the pos, set the position. Oh, forgot my dot there. To whatever I'm past, so the pause here. So I'm just writing a function that makes it easier for me to just call this function on the root of the scene rather than trying to find that kinematic body in the scene later. Just makes things easier, so we're going to put that in there. And we're going to delete this line 13 where we repark it after it hits the top, and we're going to take away the hashtag so that when it reaches that 0 coordinate, it actually deletes the laser. So now the laser scene is complete. Let's do a file, save scene, real quick check, make sure we didn't break anything, and the laser started at the bottom, went to the top, and it was deleted. That's exactly what we want. So we're done with the laser scene. Now we will open the ship scene. So we'll back up one, We'll go to the ship scene and we'll open up the ship scene. We'll click on the script for the ship itself, and we need to modify some of the code in here so that when we press the space button, the laser will actually fire. So we need to add a few more variables in here, and we're going to see another way to handle input events when we only want the action to trigger once, because when we fire the laser we only want it to happen one time, and if we don't write some code to process that, when we hit the space bar we'll get multiple lasers all at once. So we're going to create a variable that will allow us to check whether the fire button has been pressed. So fire pressed equals false. When the game starts, the fire pressed will be false. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than we did before. Now, before, if we wanted to put the laser scene into the ship root scene, right, we would select ship root and we'd press the plus key to create an instance from the scene file in our tree here. But we're not going to do that because we need to, I guess, dynamically instantiate or create these lasers whenever we press the space button. So we need to basically load the scene and create instances in the code rather than just doing it once over here. So we can do that by creating a variable to hold the location of our scene. So we'll create a variable laser, and we're going to say preload. That is, we're going to preload our scene, and now we just put in a string that's going to represent where the laser scene is, and it's going to be a resource. So res / laser / laser scene, right? Because we put in the laser folder and we called it laser scene, I believe. And the cool thing about this is if you type in the information wrong here, it will tell you it can't find the scene. So we've typed that in correctly. And we need a way of maybe keeping track of the number of lasers that we create. So we'll create a variable called laser count. And we're just going to say that equals 0 when the game starts, right? So, all right, so we've got those three variables, three new variables. And that's fire pressed, false. We're going to preload our scene, and our laser count is set to 0. The next thing we need to do is write some additional code in the fixed process function. So we will go down to line 53 here, just underneath the code that keeps the ship on the screen, and we need to write some additional code in here. So we'll want to check for the spacebar to see if the spacebar has been pressed. So how do we do that? Well, we know it's if input is action pressed, right? And the spacebar is the select, UI select. So if it is the spacebar and fire pressed is false, right? Not fire pressed. So at this point, the fire pressed variable should be false. So we're going to check for that. Let's add a couple of lines here just so we've got some space. And if it is, we need to do a few things, right? We need to create a laser, actually put a laser on the screen. So the first thing we'll do is we'll increment the laser count variable that we created by 1. Okay. And the next thing we'll do is we'll create a temporary variable here called laser instance. and we'll set that temporary variable to a new scene or a new instance of the scene. So it's going to equal laser dot instance. So here we're creating a new instance of laser and assigning it to the variable laser instance. Okay. The next thing we need to do, it's important that you give the different instances a unique name. So the laser instance dot set name, we're going to make sure it has a unique name, is going to equal laser plus, let's close that out there, laser plus a string laser count. Okay, so we've created a new instance of the laser, assigned it to laser instance variable. We renamed the laser instance to laser whatever count it is. So the first time we go through this, it'd be laser number 1. We need to add it to our tree. So we will add the child to the tree, the one that we just created. Or we'll add a child node, which the node we just created, to this this tree here. So we're going to add a child, and it'll be the laser instance. And now we want to set where in the tree it's actually located, or who actually owns that node. What will it be a child of? So we will set we'll say laser instance that set owner, and we're going to set the owner to itself. So what does that mean? It basically means that the instance that we created is going to be a child of the kinematic body 2D. The next thing we need to do is set the position of the laser instance. We need to set the position of the new laser instance. So we'll say laser instance dot set position, and we want it to be set to the position of the spaceship itself. So we will say get position here for the ship itself, and we'll add a vector 2 that's 0 in the x direction, and in the y direction we're going to say negative 92. Now I've already done some testing with the scene to see exactly where that laser should actually be created. So when I say laser instance dot set position and I tell it I want to get position, well, what position am I getting? I'm getting the position of my kinematic body 2D in my ship scene. So it's saying wherever my ship is, that's where I want you to be. And when I call the get position, it's saying, okay, here's my XY coordinates. This is where I want to put the laser. but I don't want to put the laser directly in the middle of the spaceship, right? I want the laser to be kind of at the top end of the spaceship. So I'm getting the current location of the spaceship, and then I'm adding a vector 2. I'm not going to modify my X direction at all, but I want the laser to be on the top of the ship, which is about 92 pixels up from the center of the ship itself. So that's why I'm using 0 in the X direction and negative 92 in the Y, so I can get the laser near the top of the ship. I don't want it past the top of the ship, I actually want it near it. Okay, so here's the code that we wrote for checking to see if there's an action pressed, and it's the space button, and the fire pressed is false. That is, you haven't pressed the space button and you're not currently holding it down. But I need a way of knowing when I've let up on the space bar itself. So down here we'll put in a fire pressed equals whatever the input for the spacebar is. So we'll say input dot is action pressed, and we'll grab the UI select here, and basically what I'm saying, right, the first time I go through this, if I'm holding if I press the space bar and hold it down, it's going to say, okay, well at this point, my first time through there, I'm pressing the space bar and the fire pressed is false. So I'm going to do all this. I'm going to create a laser and do all the code that we put in here, and then down here it's going to say fire pressed equals input action is pressed, right? So it's going to say it's true. It's going to set my fire press to true. So it's not going to execute this code here again until I actually let go of the space bar. And then once I let go of the space bar, the fire press will be false, and I basically reset the logic so that I can hit this statement again and go through the code again. All right, but without putting this behavior in here, if I held down the space bar, I would get 10, 13 lasers without writing the code to check for whether I'm holding down the space bar or not. Okay, so this is another way to get only a one-time, when you press a button, you only get one action until you let up the button and press it again. So now if I, let's save this scene, and let's try and run it. Let's see what happens here. So if we remember the behavior from last time, the spaceship won't move until we hit enter. So if I hit enter, then the spaceship starts to move. So now if I press the space bar, it should fire a laser from the ship, and it does. But why does my ship kind of shake when I press the space bar? And the ship is shaking because I have defined a collision area on my ship, and I've also defined a collision area on my laser, right? So the physics engine knows that I am moving that laser to about where the tip of the ship is right here, and it's within the collision area of the ship itself. So it's saying I can't live with those two objects overlapping each other. So it basically is pushing the ship down so that it makes room, and then the laser continues up, and you see that's exactly what's happening. The physics engine is basically saying, hey, you guys can't occupy the same space. So I have to do something about that, because I do want the laser to kind of appear like it's coming from inside this area here, but I don't want it to basically push my ship down. So how can I do that? Well, we can do that a couple of different ways. We can do that with layers and masks, but that's a little bit complicated for this particular video. One of the easiest ways to do it is just to add an exception so that the laser and the ships don't collide. So let's close this and let's implement that. It will only be one additional line. So where we put the logic here on 61 for the fire pressed, checking for the input as action, let's go just above that and put in one more line. and we're going to basically get the kinematic body of the laser instance that we created. So let's get the node. We know that it's called laser, so we'll put in laser here, and case matters, so make sure that you put an uppercase L here in a string, laser. And let's close that out, and then we need to put the laser count, right? We created the name here, we set the name, so the first time we go through this it would be laser 1, right? So now we need to put that in here as well, and we can do that by just saying string and laser count plus, and it's going to be a slash kinematic body 2D. And we're going to say we want to add a collision exception with get node and we want to get basically the kinematic body 2D in the ship. That's what we want to create the exception with. So that will be the dot here, because the script is actually right on the kinematic body 2D. So it basically itself. We're going to add the exception with itself. Let's close that. And let's go over this one more time just so I make it fairly clear. We create the laser instance here and we set the name to laser 1 the first time we go through here, right? We add it and set the owner and we set the position, but then we need to add the exception so that the laser ignores the spaceship. So we get the node, which is going to be the one that we created. That's going to be the laser 1, right? Scene, the root node, but we don't want to add the exception to the root node. That's why we need to add the extra string here, kinematic body 2D. So what we're doing is we're basically getting the kinematic body in the laser scene itself, and we're adding a collision exception with the kinematic body in our ship scene. So just with this one line of code, every time we create a new laser instance, we're going to say ignore any collisions with the spaceship itself. So now if I save the scene and I play it, you shouldn't see the ship moving when I have to press enter, moving when I press the spacebar. And see how it's not moving down? Yet I'm getting the laser exactly where I want it, which is right in there. So it looks pretty cool, like it's actually coming from the middle part of the ship. So that's it. We've added all the behavior we need to basically have our ship moving around and firing away. So let's take a quick look at the laser scene itself, because I think there's just a little bit of cleanup we need to do. So I selected laser scene and then the laser script itself, because I think, yeah, in the function ready I set the when we create the laser, I set it to half the screen width and down to the middle of the screen. Let's get rid of that line. We don't need that anymore because when we create a laser, it's going to be wherever the ship is. So we don't need this line. So let's get rid of that. Let's save that scene. Save the laser scene. And let's go back to the ship scene. And let's make sure we didn't break anything. And now if I press enter and move it around, yeah, okay. And I can still move around. And it's a little bit choppy because of the screen capture software I'm using, but it's smooth without it. So we'll close that, and now all we need to do is add this scene. Actually, you know what? We don't have to do anything because we've already added this ship scene to the main scene. So let's just open the main scene. Open scene. Let's back up and go to the SB main, and let's open it up. And when we open it up, we should see the ship route. You know, we added that in the last video. And guess what? Everything should work fine. So let's go ahead and click play. And there's the music. And we're at the info screen. We press enter. The game is running. Now we move around, and guess what? Yeah, now the ship's actually doing some cool firing. We're moving around. You can see the score moving up, and if you press escape, it goes back down, and we have our menus. So guess what? You've implemented the lasers on the ship, and the ship portion of it is done for now. We're going to add some special effects, but I think I may do that in one of the end videos. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to incorporate the rocks falling from the top down. Okay, so that's what's coming up next. Stick with me.